So we have with us Sourav Chakraborty and Arko Mukherjee.
Chakraborty.
My bad.
Mukherjee
Both of you are Chakraborty?
Yes.
Oh, damn. Okay. So we have with us Sourav Chakraborty and Arko Chakraborty. Both of them share the same surname, but they are not brothers. But they are both visual storytellers, and Sourav is more of an illustrator, and Arko is from an animation background. So, and we also have with us Chetan Agarwal. She's been a faculty with us for, I think,
2 years.
2 years,
More than 2 years,
and so she has a company of her own. It's called Chetan Kala, and I think her company deals with she works with a lot of underprivileged women in Bengal.
Yes,
right?
Bengal and Assam.
Okay,
Yeah.
and she mostly works with crochet, if I'm not
so
wrong.
crochet is the medium,
Okay,
and it's more about women empowerment.
okay.
And
Cool. So could you tell us a little bit more about what your company does and how you go about, educating, or at least working with, because I think sustainability is a big word nowadays in the industry, especially in
indeed.
various aspects of design and art itself. So how do you keep that in mind, and how do you also manage to get women from underprivileged backgrounds to understand the importance of sustainability itself? And do you think they really are able to put value into this word and make sure the kind of creations they work with actually hit that clause? And how do they go about it in general?
So I was doing skill development workshops because during my projects, college diploma projects, and that's where I got sensitized towards the makers, towards the artisans, what they are making. They're not being valued, or even if they are highly skilled, but they don't have the knowledge of how to take it ahead, in the sense adjusting the designs with the current requirements, and going ahead with modern designs and blending the traditional with modern. So this is how we used to come in. Our role used to be design intervention,
Right.
keeping intact and keeping very much in mind that their skill set has to be used, and what we can do. So that's how we started. Crochet was not my subject.
Okay.
I picked up crochet to create designs so that I'm able to teach those women whom I met in Uttarakhand and Uttar Pradesh. That's where I started doing skill development workshops, and I noticed that women over there are more okay with needle and yarns. So introducing clay or glass, to Himalayas, to hills, won't be that feasible. So that's where the material shift came in. So I took some time to learn the technique, to be able to understand and do some interventions.
Right.
And that's how the journey began. And I worked for a couple of years at NID, taking these projects ahead. And then gradually Chetan Kala was born. So I started my thing at Assam. There I trained women from scratch. So we have members who were literally like, Didi, we will be able to make money out of a yarn and a needle. We never thought so. So that's how, So I think art and design is all about change. It's all about, addressing the change, all about adaptability, yes.
Yeah.
Adapting to it. And also, I feel we need to be more conscious about our, surroundings.
Yeah.
So that's another very important thing. So when you say art is beyond canvas, that's how, it's more about coming up with something which brings up discussions, which, talks about, which becomes...
Exploring new horizons.
Exactly.
Yeah, and adapting with that change. I think that adaptability clause is very important
Very
when it comes to
important.
any creative
Correct.
mind, because
Like-
you're constantly trying to work with new mediums. And yeah.
Like I mentioned, I was not inclined towards digital art, but now we have to incorporate,
Yeah, it's a necessity.
it's a necessity.
So yeah, so sort of like we were having a discussion around teaching at École Intuit Lab and teaching in general, and I think Arko can chime in here as well. Arko has been a part of this institute for like just recently he started, yeah, just for a few months, and I think, but overall the experiences that we have when it comes to teaching these talented kids in Calcutta itself, for the most part it's the same, and the only thing that I would like to sort of touch on today is that what keeps you motivated as an educator and a teacher in this field of design, because we all know it's an ever-changing field. We are having updates technologically and from the trends perspective of things, we are seeing changes every single day, right? And how do you work with the students keeping these changes in mind, and what motivates you to educate these kids in this aspect of design itself?
So learning is basically a very fun activity for me. Not, learning within a curriculum or anything else. Learning something new, because when I learned animation back in 2008, like proper 2D animation and filmmaking that I'd learned at that time. That time was really fun for me, because I'm getting to learn something that I'd watched. I had an idea how these things were done, but I wasn't sure. I needed to learn it, right? So while teaching, I sort of can tap into a bit of that nostalgia of learning something new, right? Getting back to some roots, some basics that I had learned maybe 15 years back, but tapping into it, relearning it myself to make it more palatable for the kids that are going to be learning it anew, and also maybe tweaking certain things which I thought at that time could have been relayed to me better, and trying to do better at that.
Absolutely.
This whole procedure is very interesting, because quite frankly, before coming to École, I have never taught animation per se, other than guiding a few youngsters here and there. But I had actually known about École from Sourav here, because we worked, for a long time together. So I knew he was teaching there. So I had positive reviews from that, and I was aware of how the curriculum goes ahead there.
Yes, the curriculum here is wonderful, because here we teach not only the technical part of the art, rather we got to teach here the social aspects and how it is going to like present in the social period, like the social context nowadays.
Yeah.
Got it.
I think
subjects like creativity and personal project, like it doesn't exist otherwise in other other institutes curriculum, I guess.
Yeah, because creativity is not something that you can teach, right?
Yeah,
it's
you can. I think,
but you can inculcate.
You
yes.
can inculcate, and
right?
Yeah.
You have to recognize the creativity in different individuals. Like, not everybody is, very proactively creative. But at the same time, there is creativity in, human consciousness, right? The fact that human consciousness exists is a fact that humans are creative.
The growth of culture, mainly.
Like the fact that this Indian culture of jugaad it's just creativity.
It is creativity, essentially.
It is the very bare bones aspect of creativity.
Also, it helps sustainable.
Exactly.
Aspect,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, what I find interesting here is that I am given an opportunity to not just teach a software, but to tackle the hows and whys along with the what, right? So that helps to cultivate the creativity within each and every individual in a different spectrum, right? It's not a one-trick pony kind of a scenario. Like it's not a shoe that fits everyone.
All,
Right.
Yeah, I think it's a very instinctive exercise too, right? Because you have 5 or 6 students to work with, and all of their approaches to a particular project will be there in their own unique way. And I think what we also have to keep in mind a lot as mentors is that you play to their strengths, and understanding a potential from a particular student and how they are able to work with a project and what is something unique that they bring to the table.
Exactly.
That's what gives value to their work rather than the tools used itself. So the whole process of applying a good amount of design thinking and a solution-oriented approach towards projects itself, and trusting the process. And so which brings me to a very interesting topic, I think, which we can sort of, chat about. So I have noticed in my time teaching, like for me itself, it was quite a struggle initially when I started teaching. So it was something very new that I started off with. And I worked with it simply because of the fact that, it was rewarding at parts, where I realized that at some point of time, whatever I have learned or I did not learn in college, like you just pointed out very correctly, because we might not have had the best educators when we were in college, but we were smart enough to sort of pick up on the the blank spaces, the blank spaces that were left behind in the college. And we try to make sure that when we are teaching, we covered those spaces with these kids, even though they do not see it.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, I think, especially kids nowadays, Zoomers per se, they are very solution oriented, like when they just think about the outcome. So if they are working on a logo or if they're working on a poster, they just want to think about how that logo is going to look or how that poster is going to look. I think they pay very little attention to the process itself.
To the process.
Because that is time consuming. That requires a lot of thought, that requires a lot of sketching. So how do you manage to, tell these kids that, the process is often more important than the outcome itself?
Yes.
And how do you keep them on that loop?
Shall I go ahead?
Yeah.
So generally, like here at École, I'm teaching them motion design.
Yeah.
Right. So like the software Adobe After Effects is synonymous with motion design. But motion design is not the software.
Yeah.
It's the idea of what motion design happens. Like the history of motion design starts with Nickelodeons, those machines where you twist it and the animation. That is the motion design. That is animation. Motion design and animation are, two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Right. So I started off with explaining to them what animation is, because a majority of them had no idea. They're design students. Obviously, if they have to learn motion design, they need to have ideas about animation. Because it is animation at the end of the day. How you're implementing is the motion design part.
Right.
Right. But teaching theory of animation can be very boring. Right. But whatever they gather passively initially, and then they are put in a situation where they have to apply those rules and, conjure up something on their own.
Yeah.
They tend to discover a lot at that moment. Not when I'm teaching the class. I have to make myself aware that I cannot program them into knowing some software or the basics of animation. But what I can do is guide them to learn themselves.
Right.
Because teaching is like a conversation, like having a conversation.
Understanding the theories and the definition, but how to put it in the real canvas and all in the practical field is the procedure, the process where it applies.
It'll be subjective from person to person, right?
Yeah.
So I cannot cater to everyone in a single class, in a 2-hour session. But what I have to have faith in the fact that I have taught them, see, these are the tools you have. This is how you can implement it. Now do it on your own. Create something. When they make mistakes, I encourage them to make mistakes. Because if they make mistakes, they will not forget the right process thereafter. Because I'll be there to correct them.
Yeah.
So that is, I have learned, like it is somewhat of kinesthetic learning that is said. That's those learning procedures like auditory learning, kinesthetic learning, etc., etc. It's somewhat like that, but not entirely. It's like these are. I mean, I don't think you can entirely teach art through theory. Art has to be learned through practice, because art is a practice. Art
everyday
itself,
practice.
It's a lifestyle.
It's an everyday
It's a
practice,
lifestyle.
right?
Yeah.
As much as creativity is important, practice is also important.
Yeah.
Right? The draftsmanship aspect of art is entirely down to muscle memory to a
Absolutely.
point. Right? I can wake up from a drunken stupor and draw because I've practiced this extensively. Right?
Yeah.
So that aspect, that has to be there. Of course, they're kids. They'll be, obviously their minds will be fluttering here and then. Mine did. I know for a fact. So obviously they'll take time to absorb it. But if I can show them the path, they'll absorb it on their own.
Yeah.
They will realize, okay, so that is what he meant by when he was teaching this and this and that, right? It'll click for them.
Yeah.
So for me, learning how to learn or whether learning is important is far more important than, drumming knowledge into someone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
And-
that's best done, by our own experiences.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So definitely, and I think so. Kids, when it comes to at least like working with design kids itself, students, a good amount of what they learn is not just from classrooms. So there's a lot of learning that happens at home, right? We did that when we were in college. We did that when we were in school. And a lot of various aspects of working with design is just simply reading a lot of books, watching a lot of films, listening to new music, and in general, just being curious to find new things.
Exactly.
Right? And I think this is something that I have also like at every given point of time in class, I manage to sort of, this is the only thing that I drum into their heads when it comes to teaching, is that please, for God's sake, just make sure that you don't limit yourself to
Exactly.
learning and listening to things just in class.
Absorb everything.
Yeah.
Don't
like,
just come into the college and go out and forget everything.
forget everything, because it becomes like a task-based approach towards design. I don't think that works at all. So this going back home, watching a bunch of films, watching a show, and maybe reading a book, reading up on articles, just
Basically,
getting to know the world around us.
These 4 years the academy is there for giving them a proper atmosphere of art and culture, how they will grow.
Yeah, definitely. And this just becomes it becomes a community end of the day where students come in, they work with peers, like-minded people, and they also get, mentors to guide them through that entire process. But end of the day, the amount of work they put in at home when it comes to just themselves and just being able to absorb whatever's happening around them, I think that works on a very individual level when it comes to the kids
Yeah,
itself.
you can't control them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I
the
think
only
We
thing
can't
you
do
can
that.
do
We
is
cannot even expect to control
the only
them
thing
to a
you
certain
tell them is that this is something that you gotta do, man.
Yeah, let's
For
be honest.
sure.
We have gone through a schooling. All of us
Yeah.
are from a similar generation, and we have gone through a schooling system that has a bit
Yeah,
of
it propagates the
yeah.
ruttofying,
Yeah.
memorize,
Yeah.
come and
rutting
spit it
is
out.
always there.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But it can be helpful in certain scenarios.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Like if not for that, maths would have been lost to me because it was already formulated.
Chemistry.
Chemistry, forget about
That's a different
I have
ballgame
deleted
entirely.
that part from my memory. Because
Yeah.
so that is helpful in certain regards. Obviously, these are just tools, right? Tools of gaining knowledge.
The
And
language also, yeah.
yeah. How they help us is how based upon how we use them.
Yeah.
So that awareness needs to be there for a student, right? Like, to be very honest, when we were students, I'm sure there were many individuals. When we were students of art, there were many individuals with us who wanted to learn because they wanted to get a job
Yeah.
at the end of the
Yes.
day.
I get that too a lot nowadays.
Because that's how
Yeah.
even we are, when we are
We are
deciding
programmed.
our, courses and all, that's what we are asked, what you will earn
Yeah.
out of it. So that's
Yeah.
the question posed by the society, by the family, So
Yeah.
we need to address that as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, but this is heavily an Indian problem, and I think in
But it's
terms of-
changing.
it is changing,
It
but
is
I still
changing.
get, in fact, a lot of students that I interview before they start, they enroll. Surprisingly, I've seen a lot of students nowadays simply ask me very questions which are straight up about jobs and how much they learn. They are not very interested in terms of how much they can actually learn and the things that they'll be learning and whether it will be fun or not. Because I think
Yes.
that's what we were looking at when we were in college. We thought of graphic design as this fun field, but then you also realize there is a lot of serious aspects to this as well.
Exactly.
But they discover after 4 years that what they have asked right now where are they?
Yeah.
They will that is very different from that aspect, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They ask for the job, and after 4 years they understand what is the field all about. It's not only about job. It's
Yeah.
about making a good, the culture, the proper, creating your own individual view of being an artist.
Right.
Yeah, because
But I guess it's important to do justice to your education, right?
Absolutely.
And
Of course.
that's how you, that comes from job security maybe.
And
that is
you
also
get
one
the
angle
answer
which
of
you
that
cannot
job
avoid.
also.
But then that will come in all together by itself if you are well aware, if you
And
are well
willing to
knowledgeable
explore.
and willing to explore.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know.
To be very honest, the art of getting a job is very different from learning the art
Learning
of
the-
illustration, animation, etc.
Oh, yeah.
That is a entirely different field.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's already a miracle that art form has become commercialized to an extent that it's necessary for everyday lives. It's a miracle that we have jobs, art
Yeah.
jobs that are full-time paying jobs. Like when we started out, there were few, but it was a miracle that was there. Leonardo da Vinci didn't have any art jobs. He had to do art by being a polymath, right? He used to, sketch out anatomy from cadavers,
Yeah.
to publish those books so they'll be useful for
For medical
Medical
students
students, yes.
in those times,
Yeah.
right? And he used to take up engineering and architecture jobs. He designed, those warships and all. He designed for the military. The military hired him. Why? Because he wanted to get those funding for painting. He wanted to paint. That was his primary interest. But he was talented in various aspects and he earned that. But
Yeah.
now, in this day and age, we can earn a living through pursuing our artistic goals. But
Yeah.
there is a certain level of discipline because
Yeah.
creativity and executive work are two
Two
opposite
different-
sides.
yeah.
The fact that it has been merged and is useful today is a miracle and a blessing for all of us, to be very honest. Otherwise, we may have been lost and we may have had to lead the life like Leonardo da Vinci, which might sound fanciful, but not really.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, but the only thing that one needs to keep in mind as a fresh student in design is that there is a good amount of flexibility when it comes to your career itself. Like initially, you might just be interested in something like photography,
Yeah.
and you
Yes.
might just end up becoming a UI UX designer.
Yeah.
Where some might say that these two things are completely unrelated, but I mean that thought process should not be there. You should think that design is sort of a spectrum within which there are various aspects of it which you should be
Exactly.
willing to explore as a young professional or as a student. And
I think that's
so,
why foundation is really important.
yeah. So, which is what brings me to the last point of discussion here, is that is there any advice that you'd like to give a student who's currently in class 12 and is considering taking up design as a profession, and the things that they need to keep in mind, or maybe things they need to even tell their parents to convince them that this is a career which is promising?
Yeah, so I am someone who took up animation right after class 12. Fortunately, my parents were understanding. My mother, not so much, because I had, other colleges where I could have studied something else.
Engineering?
But, no, not engineering. Thank God. So, economics actually.
Okay.
Entirely different field.
Right.
So, incidentally, my economics teacher wanted me to get into art as well.
Oh, wow.
Because he was an artist who didn't get the opportunity we did. Right.
God.
He later on in life, he was a teacher, and later on in life, he had exhibitions. He's excellent at watercolors. So anyways, I digress. So the thing that I would, like to say that I had some backing from my father because he was working in media and had, he had the opportunity to consult with artists. Artists he used to work day in, day out with, because he was working in a media organization, right?
Yeah.
But not every parent is so knowledgeable about
Yeah,
this.
exposed to this field.
Obviously, there will be opposition.
Yeah.
Right? So, if you want to do it right after 12, of course, you need to convince your parents that times are not like that learning how to design would, become a fruitless affair and you'll be jobless for the rest of your life. Like, the thing that you have to keep in mind, if you learn the fundamentals well, if you focus not on earning the money initially, but rather
Passionate about it.
exploring your passions.
Yes.
Yeah, exploring your passions, because sometimes our passions are passive, right? in the daily schedules, our passions are passive. Like if you want to explore your passions and discover where your passions are, explore it.
Yeah.
Because learning art is mostly exploration.
Yeah.
Anything creative is mostly exploration.
Exactly. Yeah.
Take this opportunity to explore. Tell your parents that you'll get a job. Obviously, you have to tell that because they want nothing but a good future for you. That's totally understandable. Like even when we are parents, we'll think that way as well. It's no different. But you have to understand on your own that these 3-4 years, when after 12th, when you'll be learning art, learning creativity, right? This is a chance for you. This is an opportunity for you to explore what you're good at, how you can be better, and how you can chase to be the best.
Yeah.
Okay. If you keep that as a target and enjoy what you're doing, jobs will line up.
Yeah.
Jobs will line up. No matter what the situation of the job market is, you will get opportunities.
Yeah.
Because you are true to what you're learning and you're trying to become the best at it. And security happens.
It follows. It's a byproduct.
It follows.
Yeah.
It's a byproduct. If you chase security, you will never get it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if you chase your passion, security
Bound
is
to
a
follow.
byproduct.
Yeah.
It will get there.
Yeah.
Just you don't have to tell that to your parents, like it'll be too complicated for them to understand. Just make them sure. Just give them the faith. Mom, Dad, I can handle it.
I got this.
I got this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I think we can take the same from Chetan. Do you have anything to provide? Would like to share with students who are willing to take up design as a profession?
I think yes, like you also mentioned that it's more about being passionate first. It's more about identifying that what you are passionate about. And since design is such a vast, you have such a vast offerings in the field of design and art. So gradually, while you practice, it will follow that you will understand. You'll find that calling from within. You need to hear that voice which calling from inside, because that was at least my turning point.
Yeah.
Because we have also worked in various materials, various things. I have done my graduation in fine arts painting. Was more inclined towards traditional folk art, So it's like learning. It's like there's no end to it. At one time, if you're doing traditional arts, maybe in the next moment you are doing photography. So be open to explore all the kind of areas,
all the possible avenues,
all
mediums.
And yes, the process, like when we were talking about the design thinking, I think it's nowadays even schools are having design as a subject.
Yeah. Some schools.
Yeah.
Sure.
So design thinking is something which is very, very crucial, which can be inculcated from the very beginning. So that is how we need to think, like how we can play a role to starting from our households. And at least good thing is that nowadays nobody asks what is design. Like earlier people used to ask, what is design? What do you do in design?
Billboard, poster, egulo banao.
Exactly. So
it was a very conventional.
We had to literally convince this is the outcome of design. It's ergonomics. It's an outcome of design. The moment you wake up, you brush your teeth. The brush is the outcome of design. Yeah. So our life is surrounded with design.
Yeah, everything you see around is design.
Everything you see around
when
is
I
design.
first got into animation, people were confused between animation and lamination. Are they similar things? Like, this question has been asked.
Lamination. Imagine an entire career out of lamination.
Still now, animation and cartoon. Like animation need to be always cartoon.
But I'm sure sometimes you've said that to simplify things for someone. Ami cartoon banai. Then immediately they understand, okay, fine, I get it. At least this is some work.
Yes. In serious note, animation could work well. We don't know that.
Like, to be very honest, I think all of us in this field are natural educators because we have to educate people about what we do most of the time. So I think it's a natural thing to come into education.
Education.
I mean, to teaching at École, right?
For sure.
A very close to my heart animation, stop motion animation movie, Tokri by Suresh.
Yeah.
That's like one of
Suresh
my favorite.
Yeah.
So while you were talking about animation, I got reminded of, I often show this film to my students as well at École. So this is a perfect example of, how traditional art and
The technology
has and
come
animation
together.
come
Like
together.
It's,
And,
it's totally up to how you use the mediums.
the cross-disciplinary of the fields. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
Like cross-disciplinary, those are mostly conflated. To be honest, you need an output. You have a vision in mind. Whatever tools, whatever mediums you need for that output, you use it. Doesn't matter if it's digital or if it's manual. Does not matter, right? Because ultimately, the art form is what you have portrayed and how you have portrayed it.
Yeah.
Right.
This
So-
is how, like the word data art came.
Yeah.
It's already coined from the infographics. Like data and art both amalgamated each other.
Yeah.
And
Providing information artistically.
Yes. Also, art is now related with blockchain in making NFTs.
Yeah.
And also algorithms for immersive art in the galleries. Like people can interpret footprints and the touch design. There's a tool named touch design. So people can already change the art passing through the art. Like an audience who is like watching.
It's like interactive.
Yes,
It's very
it's
interactive.
interactive actually. It's immersive, interactive.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
that's the future.
Yes, that's the
It's
future
reality.
of the art.
Shall we discuss about where art is now and what the future looks like for art?
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe it'll be a good thing because
Yeah, that is there as one of the points. We can go
this
through
is,
that.
this is
Yeah.
a weird landscape, weird time now for art as we speak, right? Like maybe some people are thinking, okay, AI art is here. What will be the future for manual artists, etc.
AI art is destructing the art field. It's not really.
I mean, it's
I
a
think
business.
it's a highly debatable topic.
It's a
at this point.
business, right? Like
Yeah.
when AI, like when first this thing, what's it called? DALL-E came out, right?
One thing. I'm just.
Yeah, go ahead.
In Photoshop, we have a tool called content aware tool.
Content awareness.
Yes, what it does, we actually select a area and just click on the content aware the
Content aware
button.
button. It fills with with all the other materials in the image
Available in the
and
image.
and make a new thing to fill it up and logically. There is also AI working in an app already. So we weren't aware about AI at that moment, but right now when it is
The awareness
grasping,
has shifted.
yes.
Like to be very honest, like those generative AI models that are there, so it started around 10, 12 years back when DALL-E first was announced, like looking into LLMs, large language models, right? And how generative AI can be, right? And it was promised at the time those will help create tools for artists to work faster digitally. But those will help create tools for artists to work faster digitally, right? But slowly it devolved into a B2B business model than a B2C business
Right.
model, which is looking to be disrupted for the art industry, the
Yeah.
commercial art industry, right? Like businesses are promised, okay, we can give you these tools and you can maybe lay off a few individuals who can, who are designers, etc., etc. They tried that. It succeeded to a certain extent, but it failed horribly in the whole extent. Like what is advertised as an AI, an artificial intelligence, is nothing but a large language model, the concept of which was present from the 70s. Like large
It
language
minimizes your effort, but it can't grasp your effort.
exactly
purely.
like it's mimicking.
Yeah.
It's mimicking, right? Large language models are basically like if I wrote an entire chemistry book, like I'll be able to recognize formulas. I'll be able to recognize which is Boyle's law, which is Charles' law, etc. I can write the definitions properly. But if I am asked to implement Boyle's law in a real world scenario or to create something of my own, that requires intuition and consciousness, which is not
Exactly.
aware in artificial intelligence as it is said.
As of now.
As of now. Right, as of now. Like, to be honest, I'm very conflicted with this.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Like, I am not okay with how it is being used, but I am very okay with it being there because, like, transitions have happened. Like, I know people who were very iffy about using pen tablets. I started using pen tablets for the first time back in 2010. Okay. Before that, people were, working. Pen tablet technology wasn't great before that, to be very honest. They were introduced before only from the early 90s, but the technology was gradually improving.
Yeah.
But people were saying, no, the paper feels better, the feel of the paper is better.
Yeah.
Like, what is this feel? So, what they did, they made the pen tablets in such a way it
Starts
feels
feeling like paper.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So they improved upon it. Technology is nothing but changing the medium, improving the medium, making it easier to use. But the human aspect is always there. What people are scared about is whether AI will limit the human aspect,
Yeah.
which I don't think is true,
Yeah.
which I don't think is possible yet. Okay. But even if it is disrupted for art right now, like many movies are or have already been accused
Started
of using
using
AI, but mostly what they have done is, for like the recent movie The Brutalist,
Yeah.
it was accused of using AI audio, right? So what they did was, the lead character was Hungarian. He was a Hungarian immigrant to the US. So what they have done there is just, he spoke Hungarian, but the actor is not Hungarian. So to make the pronunciation better, they used a bit of AI modulation over the voice with the permission from the actors. This is the perfect use of AI. It is a tool that helps to create what we want, not a tool that replaces the actors or the performers or the artists, right?
Yeah.
So maybe people have this conundrum at this moment, but just like NFTs happened, right? So the main thing that take away from NFTs were blockchains. Blockchains are used in banks right now for password protection. But NFTs kind of disappeared, right? Because it was a fad. Fads happen quite fast on the internet these days, and they disappear as well. But the core principle of creativity is a very human thing. As long as humans are around, it's not going to go away. That is why it is more important to focus on creative thinking rather than learning a software.
Exactly.
You have to learn a software to implement it, but if you have the thought process, no matter what software, what medium you have to use, you can apply your thought process.
There is a
Students
department
need
called
to trust the
pre-production.
process.
Yeah.
So we have to focus into the pre-production rather the production.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Planning is very important, which we suffer from the lack of it a lot. But planning is very important. The pre-production that is being, like you said at the beginning, the process. They often are bored about the process and they're very result-oriented.
Yeah.
Right. The process, pre-production is a process. It's like creating the blueprint. Like you can't sanction building a house without a blueprint ready from an engineer.
Yeah.
Right. It happens with creative
And
works as well.
that process is the most human process in all the way
Exactly.
in the pipeline.
How the story will move ahead, like the scripting and storyboarding stage and the concept art
Brainstorming,
stage, it's a very human process.
Yeah.
Like the minimum use of technology, because humans are hardwired to like stories, no matter how.
We are very emotional.
We are very emotional. We are
Essentially.
emotionally attuned, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how we survive.
Yeah. I think then that's what separates us from the machines.
Yes,
Essentially.
that's our weapon.
Yeah.
You know.
And that is actually part of our intelligence.
Yeah.
And that sets us apart. Right?
Absolutely.
So that part would be very hard to be tapped using technology, using ones and zeros. It will not be very easy, no matter which company advertises. So that aspect will always have value.
Yeah.
No matter how much in turmoil industries might be at the moment, it'll settle down. Like we had actually seen 3 turmoils back, while being in our careers. Like in 15 years, every 5 years a turmoil happens.
Yes.
Like it happens for a few months, then goes back to again in a new, maybe certain new things are introduced, We have to adapt to that. Adaptability, as she said, like you said, no, it's very important.
It's
Adaptability is important. Like we all love the feeling of a brush on a canvas, right? But we have to adapt to other mediums to make our work faster because it's commercialized.
Yeah.
So it's change will happen. Change might be very hard to accept, but it's also fun. We have to realize the fun aspect of it.
Yeah. Cool. So I think we can end it on this note. This
Yeah.
was I think as a topic, this was a very interesting topic to end it with. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us in this very quick episode for a podcast that we've started for École Intuit Lab, Kolkata. And yeah, and so we are looking forward to having more of these in the future with other guests and other faculty members and of École Intuit Lab itself. And yeah, peace out.